Today, we're going to be talking about some of the biggest wealth killers. Actually, three of the biggest wealth killers. I see people in their 20s and 30s actually doing these things that's actually killing their wealth. All right, we're going to break it down step by step so you can avoid all these things at any cost so you don't actually mess up your financial future. If you do not fix these things, your life is not going to go exactly how you think. You need to make sure your finances are in order to actually be able to build true wealth and potentially even generational wealth if you're looking to do so. All right, let's get into it. So today, we in the Benz that I actually just got from our girl. Boom, let's get into it. Change the lights up a little bit. Let's get into it. All right, the first thing I want to talk about as one of the biggest wealth killers. Oh, she got the bed on. The first thing I want to talk about that is actually killing your financial future, financial well-being. The first thing I want to talk about is actually having bad credit, y'all. It costs to have bad credit. It costs to not be knowledgeable in credit. It costs to not understand the importance of credit. A lot of people think that credit is just a scoring model, something you only use, of course, when you're going to buy a house, going to buy a car, or just something you can track on Credit Karma. There's a lot of myths about credit that's just wrong, and there's a lot of improper use of credit, right? If you are black, right, African American, you are taught really, really, really bad information on credit even that can make somebody a little more fearful, right? Because I recall when I was growing up, I was actually being told that credit was bad, essentially, right? Because because it was a lot of myth, right? Like a lot of myths back then. It was like, oh, if you look at your credit score, if you pull on a Credit Karma or something like that, you pull on anything, your credit score is going to go down, right? Which is literally not true, right? Not if you're doing a soft pull, right? And I'm going to explain all that today. And if you are going to get a loan, it doesn't really matter, right? Like your credit score, I'm like, after learning these things, that credit algorithm, learning the importance of credit, leveraging credit to blow up my business, grow my business, to make more money in my business. I'm like, there's a lot of improper knowledge out there on credit people are teaching, right? And a lot of improper information that people just do not know about credit. So I want to make sure that you guys understand it literally costs you to have bad credit. I'm gonna give you an example. If I go get a loan, right, say me and you, me, Sharif, that's my name, Sharif and Bob go to the loan office, go to the car dealership, right? We both gonna get a car, say something like this, right? A car like this, right? I go there, I got a 700 credit score, right? With a strong credit profile. You go there, you got a 500 credit score with a weak credit profile. And we go there, you got a 500 credit score, I got a 700 credit score. Guess what? I'm gonna get better loan terms. So I'm gonna get, of course, same exact term rate, and I'm going to get better interest rates, right? Meaning, guess what? I spend less money on that car because if you don't know, if you go get it $10,000 from the bank, right? So buy a house or whatever thing you're buying, they're going to add interest to that. Like, okay, I bet we're going to give you this money, we'll let you borrow this money, but guess what? We're going to have to get our fee from that too, right? And guess what? I don't know who you are, so I'm going to look at your credit score and see if I can trust you or not, right? If your credit score is up to par, yes, I can trust you, but guess what? Depending on how high it is, that's what's really going to determine how much interest I'm going to give you, right? So say, for example, like saying in this case, Bob have a 500 credit score. They look at his like, we may even deny you because you are too high risk of a borrower because, we saying that your credit score is a 500. How did it get to 500? You are late on payments, right? You are literally not paying up your credit cards. You have bankruptcies, you have collections, all types of stuff like that, right? So I know not to trust you. You're not good with money. But guess what? We gonna look at Sharif's, we look at his, and look, Sharif over here, he got a 700 credit score. What does this mean? He pays off his credit cards on time. He gets money, and he actually pays them on time in full, right? At the time that the lenders are actually looking for the actual money back. But guess what? We're gonna trust him a lot more, and guess what? We're gonna approve him, and we're gonna give him less interest rate. I say, for example, the total interest rate that Sharif's get is going to be 5%. Let's say 7% interest rate on a car. And then Bob is either going to get denied or they're going to give him a 17% interest rate, a 20% interest rate. And you may think 20% is high, but literally it's possible. If your credit score is that bad, if it's not up to par, they will give you, because if you go to a dealership, the point of the dealers is they don't make money unless you actually buy that car, right? So guess what? They're going to get you approved, right? 9 times they're going to get you approved for something that you should not be buying, but they're going to slap you some fat interest rate. So guess what? My monthly payment is $300 a month. And guess what? Yours, or let's say my money for $10,000, my monthly payment is $150. And guess what? Yours is at $500 a month, right? And it's like literally what, 4 or 5 times more than mine, simply because your credit score is bad, right? So literally, And all that money is not going towards the cost of the actual car. It's going to go towards interest. You're going to pay a lot more money in interest simply because you have bad credit. So now it's literally costing you thousands of dollars over the actual term of the loan. No, and then of course, the more money you're borrowing, the more interest you're gonna pay, because guess what? Now you're borrowing $50,000. Say you want to get a beat up property. Say you want to get an investment property for real estate. Okay, we approve you, but guess what? We give you a fat interest rate. We get 10% interest rate, and then guess what? Sharif, he gets 3% interest rate. All right, and now you're paying also thousands of dollars more than me. Right, and then guess what? Now let's get into the situation of buying an actual house to live in. You go buy a house. We go get a house. Both of our houses $300,000. I get a 2.2% interest rate, which is literally what I have in my house currently, and then you get a 5% interest rate. That's what's literally possible. You get a 5% interest rate, and guess what? Now you're literally paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why? Because we got a $300,000 loan. You see what I'm saying? So it literally costs you to have bad credit. It costs you to have bad credit, y'all. It costs you to have bad credit. A lot of people do not understand that it costs you to have bad credit. It costs you a lot of money. So if you have any collections, you need to make sure you are removing any negative accounts off your credit report. You need to make sure you're removing everything that is not supposed to be good on your credit and keep it all the positive things, right? I have full in-depth videos. I'll leave it down in the description if you want to actually learn about credit, y'all. If you want to learn about credit, go to my main account, which is Real Melanin King. I'll have it in the description. I have a lot of tutorials on credit, playlists on credit. So you need to get educated on credit because it literally costs to have bad credit. This is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make in your financial well-being, right? So you have to make sure you get your credit right, please, because like anything on this list, like this is probably one of the things that's going to lose you the most amount of money, because you're going to need to borrow money at some point. You need to borrow money, whether that's for college tuition. You're going to need to borrow money, whether that's for buying a house. And guess what? Even if you're not borrowing money, guess what? If you go rent an apartment, you can get denied if your credit score is bad, right? You can get denied if your credit score is in a bad place. A lot of apartments nowadays, they require a minimum of 620. And if you want to buy a house, it's minimum 650. So if you're not up to that part, then you're not going to get approved at all, right? So guess what? You'll be living with your mom for the rest of your life. In your 50s, you still live with your parents because you cannot afford to be able to get your own place, which guess what? That's going to cause your wife to leave you, or your husband, because you guys can't get a place together because you have bad credit, y'all. So this is one of the most expensive mistakes you can have. And if you don't have a 700 credit score, you're literally losing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of your loans, right? So make sure you strive to get to the 700 club. That is where you're going to be able to get some of the best interest when you get to the 700 club, especially get to the 750. You don't need to get to the 800. Just get to the 750s and you honestly will be good. All right, so once again, one of the most expensive mistakes you can have in your life and making your life is literally having bad credit. So make sure you have good credit so you're not missing out on a ton of money, right? Or you're losing out on a ton of money, I should say. They got this new spot, they trying to match with me. They got the blue, you know what I'm saying? That's a 7 brew. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is not investing into yourself, right? One of the most expensive mistakes you can have is not investing into yourself. A lot of people think that the only thing you can invest into is stocks, crypto, and all that stuff, right? Or S&P 500, the S&P 500, Roth IRAs, index funds. But guess what? One of the best returns you can have is by investing to yourself. If you invest in yourself into learning a skill set to take you from making $20 an hour to making $30 an hour, guess what? You just made an extra $10,000, $20,000 a year by simply bumping up your skill set so you can be able to make more money, right? Say you go from making $20 an hour to making $50 an hour because you invested into a program. Say, for example, you get your certificate, you become a nurse or something of that sort because you went to nursing school, whatever the case may be. You went did some extra education, whatever it requires to become a nurse or whatever education. Say, for example, you're a regular person right now, you're working a 9-to-5 job. You take a plumber's course, you go to trading school for extra $10,000. Then guess what? With that $10,000 to $5K, how much it costs to go to trading school, guess what? Now you're able to make $50,000 a year, and you was originally making $30,000 a year, right? Guess what? You just added an additional $20,000 of annual recurring revenue, essentially, like annual revenue to your actual yearly revenue, right? So one of the most expensive mistakes people can have is staying average, literally not investing into themselves to learn more skill sets. You get paid based on the problems you can solve. So guess what? Learn more skill set. You can be able to fix higher problems. Especially right now, there's not a lot of plumbers out there, right? A lot of plumbers are quitting, electricians, all types of stuff like that. Because guess what? You get into a field like that, guess what? You get to make a lot more money, y'all. One of the best things you can do is invest into a skill set so you can be able to make more money. A lot of people thinking about, oh, how can I put $1,000 into the S&P 500 for it to grow to millions of dollars, later on? Guess what? You're not growing $1,000 to $1 million just off of just a one-time investment of $1,000. Of course, if you're investing $1,000 every single month into S&P 500, yes, of course, 100% you can get to, of course, $1 million easily. Over the course of a few years, or not a few years, but decades, right? But guess what? For you to have the extra $1,000 a month laying around, you need to increase your monthly income, right? You have to increase how much money you're making, because guess what? If you work in a traditional 9-to-5 job, or a regular, warehouse job, whatever the case may be, you're not going to be able to have an extra $1,000 laying around, right? Which is the only way you can actually truly make that millions of dollars you're trying to do. So guess what? If you want to have that extra $1,000 a month, try to find a skill set you can learn to make that additional $1,000 a month, and then you can go ahead and invest that into the other things that you want to, right? Because you need to make more money. Because if you're working a traditional job, it's not going to give you enough money to be able to do the things you're trying to do. Take extra vacations, whatever the case may be. Have more freedom, have more time, have less stress, because you stress about money, all right, which is one of the biggest things that stress people out and actually, end their life fast. So guess what? One of the biggest things you can do is invest into higher skill sets, better skill sets, so you can make more money, y'all. You have to make more money. Invest into yourself. That's a mistake a lot of people make, thinking that they can only invest into S&P 500. No, you can invest into yourself. Invest into yourself is going to make you a lot more money, y'all. So make sure you're investing into yourself so you can make more money and be able to, of course, then fund the lifestyle you're looking for through long-term investment, whatever you're trying to make, right? All right, the next mistake that people need to avoid in their early 20s and 30s, and actually as life as a whole, is having high monthly recurring expenses, right? One of the biggest traps a lot of people fall into is the fact that they realize they can finance everything, right? Even now to the point where you can literally have BNPLs, buy now, pay later options for a bunch of things. And this is adding more to your monthly recurring expenses, right? So you didn't have enough money to afford that PlayStation. So guess what do? You went ahead and you financed a PlayStation 5 for 24 months, right? So boom. And then guess what? That TV, that 75-inch TV, that 100-inch TV that you wanted so bad, you couldn't afford it. So guess what do? You went ahead, you did a financing, and now you can do $20 a month for 2 years, $20 a month for 3 years, $20 a month for 5 years, right? These are things that's literally draining your income, because you don't even think about how much interest you're paying that. On top of that, you're also not even thinking about the fact that this is literally adding more to the monthly recurring expenses you have, right? All of these small expenses add up. If you have literally four $25 expenses, that's literally extra $100 a month that's coming out your pocket. And when it comes to these subscriptions, the Netflix, all these little things, they all add up. Trust me, y'all. I make a lot of money. I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying I make a lot of money, and I still be like, oh my God, I'm spending so much money, because I have to realize, these small little recurring expenses, it adds up. So if you fall into the trap of financing everything, right, and then increasing your monthly recurring expenses, this is one of the most detrimental things you can do, because guess what? It's still eating out your pocket every single time. That's still an extra. Say, for example, you're paying an extra $500 a year, because when you add the interest up, you're not even realizing that, guess what? This thing might be $500, right? But because of the interest, and especially when you were doing these BNPLs, they slopping crazy interest, whatever the case may be, or these smaller financing options, guess what? They like, okay, I bet we're trying to make as much money as possible. So, but guess what? By the time you're done paying it, you done pay double what the actual thing is worth, right? I'll give you a story. I remember I financed a watch, right? It was a Movado watch. The watch was $1,300, right? $1,300, right? $1,300. And I remember they like, you can finance it, I went ahead, they're like, yeah, we give you 3-month finance, or you can do it for a year, what I'm saying? But not telling you that, guess what, they give you 3 months to pay this thing off, but after those 3 months, they slap you some crazy, ridiculous interest rates, right? And then by the time I was done paying it off, I realized I ended up paying double the price of the actual watch, damn near double. I ended up paying $3,600 for the watch. That was that's double. I ended up paying $3,600 for the watch. That was literally supposed to be $1,300. It was supposed to be $1,300, and I'm paying $3,600 y'all. They slapped me with so many freaking interest. And I was like, yo, can I pay it off early? They're like, oh, there's penalties for paying off early. And I'm like, yo, what the heck is going on? Right? I ended up paying so much money for that watch simply because I did not even understand that, guess what? It has so much interest slapped on top of that. And guess what? Also increased my monthly recurring expenses, right? Because guess what? When you get stuck in a certain position, say for example, you lose your job for a little bit, right? Your savings is going to be going down the drain so fast because you have so many monthly recurring expenses. Even now, I personally have a lot of monthly recurring, high monthly recurring expenses, right? But for me, a lot of my monthly recurring expenses is like for family and stuff like that too, which I'm literally still working on. I take care of a lot of my family, paying a bunch of people bills and stuff like that. So that's literally something I'm literally trying to shave down because I'm like, yo, I shouldn't be doing this is, you know what I'm saying? But that's literally, that could be your situation, right? You can't be taking other people's financial well-being, financial mistakes financial burdens onto yourself all the time. You know what I'm saying? Even stuff like that can also add up to your high monthly recurring expenses, right? So that is literally what I want to talk about. The three things I want to really make sure you guys focus on actually bringing down these high monthly recurring expenses, having bad credit, and of course not investing yourself. Do these things, right? Face these things. So get better credit, invest into yourself actually, and then stop having high monthly recurring expenses. This is going to help you tremendously in your early 20s and 30s. And trust me, without a shadow of a doubt, you'll be able to build a lot more wealth in those ages. All right. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'll catch y'all on the next one.